Welcome, everyone. Welcome to class number 4. Tonight, we're going to be talking about ritual and how it connects us back into the fabric of creation. And this is class number 4, so we have one more left after tonight in our Waking the Dreamer series. So I welcome you all. See some beautiful familiar faces here and names. Thank you all for gathering with me here tonight. So I'm going to invite you to put the place that you're calling from in the chat so we can get a sense of all those sacred places, because each of you are guardians and holding a sacred place on the earth. And so it's beautiful to acknowledge those places too, because they respond, they feel that connection. Like they have their names like we do. When somebody uses our name, acknowledges us, we light up. And so do the places on the earth. So do the trees and the rivers. Because remember, everything is conscious. Some of them are quite lonely and have been forgotten. And so there's a lot of remembering to be done. And that's part of our work here, is awakening human beings as human beings who are evolving into a higher level of consciousness and desiring to walk in a more spiritually aware and awakened way on the earth. That's what we're all doing here. And this is such a magnificently powerful time. So happy solstice to each of you. Greetings and blessings. And I hope you all got to do something yesterday or in the last day or two, or even today, to acknowledge this solstice time, this awakening and dawning of the age of Aquarius. Great conjunction last evening between Saturn and Jupiter. Great star. It was cloudy here in Woody Point, raining actually, so we couldn't see anything. I had to connect in spirit. But maybe some of you got to do that. So put in your name, put in your place names, acknowledging the spirits of your place that you live and stand upon, and which sustains you in ways that we've forgotten, how the land and the trees and the beings are intimately connected with us and sustaining our very existence. So, Catherine, can you tell us who we have on the call tonight, or where people are calling from, those sacred places? Let's name them.
Yes, we have the following sacred places: Grand Falls, Windsor, near Kensington, PEI, Whidbey Island, the Netherlands, the beautiful Nottawasaga River in Hockley Valley, Ontario, St. John's, New Brunswick, Guelph, Mississauga, Ontario, Corner Brook, Cambridge, Ontario, Pennsylvania, USA, Barrie, Ontario, Breslau, Ontario, and the Frenzied Hollows of Toronto.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so let's just I'd like to energetically connect with all the others who will be watching this call, will either join us later or be watching this recording later, and acknowledge the spirits of their sacred places as well, just to be inclusive of everyone in the group. And if you're sensitive, you may even feel the energy of those sacred places responding. Just notice what's going on in your field. I can feel them coming in, very pleased to be acknowledged. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So tonight we're going to talk about ritual. And ritual is a way of, bridging those worlds, the visible and the invisible realms, and a way of cultivating our connections, those relationships with the more than human world, and particular with the spiritual realms that are the cause, if we want to use a cause effect, it's the spiritual realms that give rise to the physical ones. So our luminous energy body, remember, contains the codes for our physical body. That's why working with our luminous field is so important. But before we do that, let's just take a moment to come into our sacred circle, bringing and inviting all the spirits of place, of the sacred places that sustain us and take care of us. Let's come into our circle, and I'm going to invite you to go in your imagination to wherever feels good to you. It feels beautiful. So we could be in a great, long house, in a gathering place, or in a great teepee, or we could be outside in a beautiful meadow, sitting in a circle. Wherever we are, we're sitting in that circle in the traditional way, where everyone is equal, and everyone is a teacher, and everyone is a student. And no one is less important or valued than the other. And in the center of the circle, see our little fire. I'm seeing a fire there tonight. And around the fire, I'd like you to place your sacred object. Could be a medicine bundle, or something, it could be a special stone, or some flowers that you gathered on the way to the circle today. So just put something that's sacred to you, your offering, in the center, and let that hold us all here together tonight in this sacred space. Beautiful. And you feel that connecting to the earth, feeling that shift of energy as we all come to ground. So getting comfortable, feeling that connection with Mother Earth, feeling that support and that love, and sinking into that support. Feeling also your connection to the stars, to the Great Spirit, to the cosmic sun. Okay. And so here we are, we've arrived. So the word ritual is a relatively new word. It began or appeared in our lexicon only about 2,000 years ago. And when it began to be used by religions to refer to activities that were of a sacred or spiritual nature. In pre-religion times, that they may have had other words, but I suspect that the bigger reason we don't see it appearing before then, because we had written language long before then, is because ritual was so much a part of our indigenous ancestors' everyday lives, that it wasn't, something they were much more conscious, and particularly during that age of when the feminine was very strong and the pagan mystery schools were in existence. When our connection with the Great Mother and with the Great Feminine and feminine wisdom was so strong and just, very evident. And so we weren't disconnected like we are now in modern times. And so ritual was just a part of how you interacted with the world around you. But then it became formal and more formalized. Until today, we talk about a ritual as something that we just do every morning, like your morning coffee is a ritual, right? Something you have every morning. First thing you do is you get up and you go and you put the coffee on. And we called it a ritual. Well, that's, not the way it was intended to be used. So something that you do habitually, just again and again, without any conscious intention, except to get your morning shot of caffeine, wouldn't technically be a ritual. So, though, as I said, being so disconnected from our spiritual selves and from the spirit of the natural world around us, we tend to have, it's another, habit we've fallen into. So rituals create portals of connection. Now, I'd like to tie this in to the work that we did last week, the topic we covered, multidimensionality. And I talked about how, there are different frequencies or bandwidths that, and some of those in the multidimensional universe are physical, the lower dimensions have physical form. But as you get higher and higher up that dimensional scale, everything becomes invisible and finer and finer and finer frequencies. So ritual was the way that we bridged those worlds. We bridged the physical and the energetic. We had to go to a higher level in order to access it. And so the ritual was the bridge of connection. Now, when we think of rituals, there are many different kinds of rituals that we still do today. And they have to do often with significant life events, transitions and change. So births, marriage, death. You think about all, these things are, we do those rituals. They have meaning and significance. They help us cope with the changes in our lives, the inevitable losses in our lives, the change to, a new role that we're taking on, a new responsibility. And so these, rituals really they have to do with thresholds. It's another way to think of it. As you step over something into a new place, into a different way of being in the world. So a baptism for a baby, baby gets its name, its identity, and, depending on the religion or the intention behind it, becomes accepted into a particular, religious tradition. Marriage, the same thing, stepping into new responsibilities and a new role, a higher level of commitment. So all of these are part of any kind of ritual. And of course, by the ancient shamans, this would have been one of the functions, to be a ceremonialist, a ritual, to be someone who understood the essence and and what was needed to make these times, to help navigate and to create some meaning and purpose. So marking the times of the solar calendar and the lunar calendar with like solstice, all the ceremonies for solstice, right? That would have been part of the role of the ritualist or the ceremonialist in the village. And, many of us now are taking on those roles, right? That's a very traditional part of the shaman's activity. And that could have been, you could have had a specialty, just like not all shamans did healing work or the same kind of healing work. Some shamans might work, as I said in the first class, with with different tools? Would you have different spiritual allies, whether in the stone world or in the plant world, or work with the energies of the stars, with the earth's ley lines? All of these would be, ritual would be a part of it, would be part of how you would do that work of bridging and connecting. So the threshold between the physical and the invisible, that's at the heart of ritual. The ordinary, the separation between the ordinary life, the activities you do, and stepping into non-ordinary, where you're outside the space, time and space are different. Right. So, when you step into ritual, that something shifts. You're in a higher frequency, right? Because you've stepped into the invisible realm and into connection with the invisible realm. I remember I've been doing this work for a while, and I had an awareness one day as I was walking down the corridor to my office, where I was, would see clients and do ritual and have ceremony. That one day I was walking and I had this, almost like an inner jolt, and it had happened before, and I thought, oh, what is that? And then I realized that it was as I approached my office, which had become a place where I regularly opened sacred space, did healing work, enacted ceremony, made offerings, that I was stepping into. The place had become a different frequency. And after that, every time I could feel that shift. I'd get to a certain place. And this is, places have energy, right? So this is why churches, you step into, and some churches maybe more than others, as well as sacred places on the earth. And if you've had encounters and opportunities to go there, there is something, particularly if you're sensitive, you can pick that up. You can feel that there is something that happens. So these places, through the continuing reenactment, places have energy, and the very, from the moment you invoke and you call in, declare your intention and call in the spirits that you're working with, you start to create pathways. It's the same way with journeying, which we're going to do tonight, by the way. We're going to do a journey at the end. So, these become, what scientists have found is that ceremony and ritual actually changes the neural pathways of the brain. So there's actually a rewiring that happens in the brain. Now, we know that we have, different parts of our brain, and they have different functions. And there are those higher functioning parts of the brain that get activated when we do ceremony and ritual. And so, this is what's happening. This is just not something we're doing and changing, the external world, but we are being changed in the act of doing it. There is something that happens. And that's the mystery. That's all the great mystery. So I've alluded to this a little earlier, but I'd just like to make this more salient, that to the indigenous mind, ceremony and ritual were different than for our Western modern minds. So for the indigenous, as I said, for our ancestors, and we have this in our bodies, we just have to activate it and remember it, that there was more of a conscious awareness of the spiritual realm and our, our interrelatedness with it. And so that connection to, the spirit and to the great myth, the mystery, was more intuitive. We were using more of our intuitive feeling sense, our body sense, and more instinctual. And there was more of the following and trusting of your inner knowing and your inner guidance. So, speaking with the trees and acknowledging, the rivers and the spirits, the animals that showed up, knowing there was a reason that particular one had, come to your awareness. Whereas in our modern minds, you know, we are trained and socialized to pay attention to the logical left brain, and you know, that's ruled by language, and so we think our way through the world, and so and we operate in, you know, we're more in linear time. So and we see ourselves as separate, you know, so there's me and then there's you. There's, you know, your inner reality and the outer reality. And when we're in our left brain, we are much more in that separate consciousness. And so it's more rigid. It's more rigid. And we have this idea of, you know, because I see this all the time. I was there at the beginning when I started to do this work. And we'd have our teachers would say, you know, would tell us to do something, and they'd give us some what seemed like very meager directions or instructions, and I'd be like, wait a minute, like, so, you know, how do I do it, like, you know, so, and I'd be like furiously writing my notes, right? Okay, so the first thing was that, and what was the second thing, and what was the you know, I just would go into, you know, high stress around getting it right. And the teachers would just laugh and say, oh, you'll remember, you'll know what you need to know. And they would, you know, sort of play with us, right? And refuse to give us the, you know, write it down for us or give us pieces of paper. They'd say, you'll remember what you need to know. And so, you know, it took me a long time. And that's that, you know, left brain, right? That modern brain that thinks there's a right way. And of course, you know, we're always, you know, referencing outward to other experts, giving our power away, our authority away, and to some external source, as opposed to our more indigenous way of being in the world, which we're remembering, and we need to come back to, of trusting, you know, and listening inward and trusting that, you know, there's a flow, and that, you know, you don't have to get it right. It's about your intention and your willingness to listen deeply, and to trust that guidance, that inner guidance. So recovering our indigenous minds is like, this is the work, right? This is the work ahead of us, and that we need to be doing if we're called to this work, and to repairing and restoring our relationship with the more than human world, and with the spiritual essence of those beings, and that greater creation. So ritual, again, to just reiterate, again, I've touched on some of these, the effects and the why we do it. It's because it brings us back into right relationship with our own spiritual nature, you know, our own indigenous selves, and with the forces of creation that, you know, brought all of this realm, brought this world into being, however you understand that, coming back into correcting our relationship with nature, and you know, with our own spirits. Our prayers and, you know, our communication, again, such a big part of initiating that, realizing that, you know, there are different languages spoken by all the beings, but everything has its song and its language, and it's our job to listen and to open to those communications, because they're always communicating with us, always reaching out to us, speaking to us through, you know, the water speaks to us through, you know, its waves, through its sound. And so do the birds. No trouble to hear the birds. I mean, how you know, magnificent, right? And the trees, you know, scientists are recording the sounds of trees, and find out that every tree has its own language and its own way of speaking. And it's very unique, just like fingerprints. So this kind of, you know, bringing us back, right, into harmony and into balance is the work of the shaman and of this path. And remembering too that, for those transition times, and particularly, this is a really good time to talk about, the losses and the transitions, the things that are more challenging and difficult, like we're going through now globally around the planet, and all the death and the loss and the fear. That ritual helps us to process those emotions. So there is a great psychological and physical healing effect of rituals. That, when you move into, lighting that candle and starting to say those prayers, and those neural pathways, the connections between all the different parts of our brain, start to come into harmony, and there's something that happens. So, just like we know, funerals, right, are great, help us deal with, loss and transition and grieving, right? So we have, lost some of our rituals around that, and there's always more to bring back. So what I love about ritual and ceremony is, there's no, once you understand what you're doing and why, and once you know about, what some of the ways are, to cover the bases, you might say, there are some foundational principles which I go into more in, because this could be a whole course around just ritual itself and ceremony. But once you know those principles, then it's just about being creative, like what's needed, and how do you make it fit the situation. And it can be as simple or as complex. I mean, there are places, indigenous cultures, that spend days preparing for a big, give back ceremony to bring things back into balance. Or we'll start, like even this time of year, winter solstice. I visited a village in Mexico, up in the mountains, where the men go off, days before winter solstice, to begin collecting these special branches and boughs to decorate for the winter solstice. And it's a huge production. The whole community gets involved. The children are involved in creating the decorations. Everything's handmade. The men go off, to collect the boughs of this, special tree to decorate. So, and at the same time, a ritual can be very, very simple. It can be, a prayer blown into a stone and placed in a river. So again, we've lost a lot of this wisdom, but I'm hoping that tonight will encourage you to start incorporating some ritual into your life, and to find ways that you can create more ritual. So there are basic elements, of course. Let me see how we're doing. Good. So the elements of, earth and fire, air and water, usually you want to bring in, again, it's about balance and relationship. So you bring in all the elements out of which the whole, world is made, our bodies are made. So those, simple things of making sure everything is represented for balance and for harmony. There are some really complex and elaborate rituals, that have to do with the correct placement. So in our solstice celebration circle, some of you may have been there, and some of you were there, I see you here. One of the women created a crystal grid to anchor in our prayers and our intentions, and connect the 5-dimensional consciousness, to the earth and for our circle. And so the placement for her, the placement of those crystals in that grid, was not done haphazardly. I tell you, she had spent days preparing, and she's here, right, Kathy? Thank you. Kathy had spent days preparing the crystals, charging the crystals under the moon and under the sun, and probably under the water spirits, the rain too. And then, placing them in a very particular grid and placement. So, the time and the energy that you put into preparing a ritual has a direct impact on the power of that ceremony. I've learned this as well when I do a lot of despacho, which is a Peruvian prayer bundle tradition of ceremony. And, you know, as again, I found this, you know, how much time it takes to prepare. As soon as I take the intention and begin to act on it, think, okay, now I have to get this and gather that, I feel the energy shift. And sometimes, again, that, you know, could be hours or it could be days, you know, of gathering the materials for that and just following that inner guidance, you know, around, okay, or whatever pops in, you know, something pops into my head, and I'll think, oh, okay, that needs to be in the bundle, right? So it's a different way, and it's a beautiful, playful way and creative way of being in the world. And you know, to do this sacred work. So it's one, you can probably tell, it's one of my favorite aspects of the work that I do. So of course, music, sound, anything, prayer, invocation, you know, you can be, the possibilities are endless. Movement and dance and, you know, art. You know, another favorite thing that I love to do are make little, I don't know what you'd call them, but little offerings. But I'll use candy and cookies and natural objects, and, you know, I'll leave them. I'll create it, you know, on a beach or in a place in nature, in my backyard, on my little stone altar back there. And, you know, everyone is different. I mean, again, it's like, for me, it's like a work of art. You know, it's like I step into that zone. I have an intention and a desire to make an offering, to make a connection, and so the doing of it is a prayer, you know, and it's very, you know, just what arises within me, you know, awarenesses and ideas and thoughts and feelings, right? The feeling. So it's a very intuitive and very creative way of being in the world. Yeah, so symbols and objects, and, you know, like I said, you know, it can be, you know, I want you to know that it isn't about, you know, having the rules and this is the way you have to do it. And you first, you know, and there are certain things, you know, to do first and second, but, you know, the spiritual realms are very forgiving. You know, the first time I forgot to put something that was essential into the despacho, I was like, oh my God, it's not going to work, right? Excuse me. You know, I've really ruined it now. That's, you know, that's left brain, right? Judgment, right way, rigid. And I soon learned to just laugh and think, well, it's all perfect. I guess there's a reason it didn't go in there. Instead, I'll put it in here, or I'll put it on the outside, or whatever. Get creative, right? Because it's about your intention, right? It's about the intention. Okay, so that's my hopefully inspiring talk about ritual and ceremony, and to motivate you and to inspire you to incorporate, you know, more ritual and ceremony, and even becoming a part. You know, you can get together with other people and just start, you know, creating and playing with ritual. There's no, you know, we need, I mean, however you feel called to reconnect with the invisible realm, to start acknowledging and initiating that relationship, you know, is good. Like follow that instinct or that intuitive guidance. I get a lot of my ideas in dreams. I'll have a dream and I'll go, okay, yeah, I know, like either it's a, you know, something, I'll think, okay, I need to do a fire ceremony, or, you know, it's something about water or beach. I think, no, I need to do a connection with water spirits now, or the tree spirits will come. I'll get my meditations or dreams, I'll get, you know, they'll show up and I'll go, okay, all right. So, you know, pay attention to those kinds of things, right? So we're going to do a journey now. I'm going to invite you to relax and come into your body. And now you've done a couple of journeys with me, so maybe this is the third one. So know, again, that the most important thing for a journey is that you be really relaxed and present in your body. And so if you want to turn off your video, then feel free to do that if that gives you more of a sense of privacy. You know, in some traditions, in the Celtic tradition, for example, they have the big hood, you know, or the big shawl, the blanket that comes up over the head. And so while it's not needed, it does give that sense of privacy and darkness, right? To shut off the external world and the lights from the external world, and go inward and connect with your inner vision. So the experience today is to journey to the upper worlds. Now, I talked about the upper worlds and the 3 worlds of the shaman. And in the upper worlds are the places of possibility. And also, my teaching is that our ancestors, when we pass, we go back to the spirit worlds, and there are levels to the spirit world, which we won't spend a lot of time on tonight. But there is a level that is for our ancestors. And so the invitation is to connect with an ancestor who is healthy and well, who is well seated, because not all our ancestors are healthy and well. Some of them are still doing their healing work, past, you know, maybe unconsciously, or past, you know, with unresolved issues. And so they still need our healing and our support from this side. But we do have, all of us do, we may have to go back a long time, but we will all have an ancestor who is what we would refer to as well seated. So they are, they have found and connected with their power and their wisdom, and they are the ones who are most available to us for support and for guidance, and they can be helping us. And they usually are helping us in ways that we may not even be aware of. So at this time, you know, when the world is filled with fear, even if we're not feeling it, we can't help but be affected by it. When there is so much uncertainty, you know, on the path ahead, when, you know, there are unknowns, so much unknown and challenges for all of us here on the earth, this is when we need to call on, and we have many helping spirits that are waiting and willing and working with us and helping us. So we're going to ask for one of those and our own personal ancestors along our bloodline to connect with us. So in order to do this journey to the upper world, we're going to use the world tree. And so I'm going to guide us to go to a great tree, and to ask to merge with that tree, for your luminous field to merge into the tree and to travel up to the upper branches, and where we will call on our celestial parents who are luminous beings who have never had physical form, but they would have birthed us, you know, before we ever came into physical. And they will take us, we're going to ask them to take us to the realm of the ancestors, one of the levels of the upper world, where we can meet and have a conversation with this ancestor. So, connecting with your breath now, and bringing your attention inward. Just noticing your breath moving in and moving out. I'm going to invite you into a meadow. So find yourself in a meadow, a beautiful place in nature that is open. And on the other side of the meadow, you see a great tree. with a great trunk and its branches reaching high, high, high into the sky. This is perhaps the biggest tree, the highest tree that you have ever seen. And the canopy is literally covered with clouds, reaches to the heavens. And so make your way, looking down at your feet, noticing your feet and the ground underneath your feet, and making your way to the tree. And when you get to the tree, and to get to the tree, you pass through a mist. And as you go through this mist, you notice that the tree and everything around you seems brighter, more vibrant somehow. And you ask the tree, greet it, and ask for permission to merge with it. And allow yourself, your luminous body, to merge with this tree. And so as you feel yourself merged with this trunk of this great tree, you can feel the sap and the fluids and the liquids moving up and down. Great roots deep into the earth, pulling up the nutrients that the tree needs, the deep earth waters. And allow that sap and those fluids of the tree, the waters in the tree, to cleanse you of what may not accompany you into the upper realms. Feel everything being purified. Feel yourself being cleared. Beautiful healing happening. Just you let go. Your luminous field is refreshed and restored. Feel the cooling effect of these waters, of this sweet sap, feeding and nurturing and healing your luminous body. And then allowing yourself to move up the trunk of the tree, up, 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 until you get to the furthest most branches. Follow the branches up to the furthest canopy, the highest canopy up here in the clouds. And we call on now your celestial parents and see them approaching as two bright lights coming together. And as they get closer, you see their luminous forms, and you feel, before you see, you feel their love, pure unconditional love, and their delight at seeing you. Allow yourself to be embraced and held and filled with their love, their joy, how proud they are of you. Take all that in. Look into their eyes. Feel that love beaming out, completely unconditional. And know how very much you are loved. That you are love, the essence of love. Feel that happening now. And tell them why you've come. And feel their excitement, their joy, that you're here, that you're doing this work. And tell them you're on your way to meet an ancestor who's healthy and well, able to be a guide and a support to you now. And so let yourself now be carried with your celestial parents up, 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 passing many levels of the upper world, the levels of the stone people, the plant realm, the animal realm, until you come to the ancestor realm. And you know it because you can see all your ancestors. You can see crowds gathering because they have anticipated your arrival. They're coming to greet you. But you keep your intention clear that you've come to meet with an ancestor who is healthy and well. And just notice who emerges from that great gathering, that great crowd. Who comes forward? Who steps forward? And again, look into their eyes and see the love and the pride that they have and how they know you. They know you, have known you since time began. Allow yourself to be gathered in a great hug, a warm embrace. Allow that love to seep through your whole body, into every cell and every atom of your energetic body, every luminous thread lit up. And tell them why you have come. And of course they knew you were coming. Tell them what it is you need. Maybe there's something specific that you need help with and support with. Or that you need some advice. Well, have a conversation. And trust what you get, what you feel, what you sense, what you know. Thank them. Thank them for being here. Thank them for all that they do to support you. Maybe they can share with you how they've been supporting you. Ask how you can stay in connection with them. What you can do back in your ordinary world to honor them and to keep this connection, this relationship. Before you leave, to get ready now to make your goodbyes, ask for a blessing. Ask them if they would give you a blessing. And allow yourself to receive that blessing. And so then, making your goodbyes, knowing you can come back anytime, and knowing now that you have established a connection and that you have a way of connecting again. Maybe you can invite them to come through the dream time or through your meditation. And so turning, and your celestial parents are waiting there for you. And so you join them, and you make your way back down through the levels of the upper world. past the animal realms and the plant realms, the stone realms of the upper world, back to the top of that tree where you take your leave and say your goodbyes to your celestial parents. Again, knowing that they're always here. All you have to do is call, reach out to them, and allow your luminous body to just merge back into the tree, into the upper branches, and to follow those branches down, allowing the sap and the waters of the trees are down in the trunk, allowing the tree to wash what may not accompany you back into the ordinary world, feeling yourself being cleansed and purified, and feeling the energy, the wisdom and the gifts and the blessings, the love of your celestial parents, of your ancestor with you in your heart, knowing it will never leave. And now you have this new awareness, this new energy, this new connection. And beginning to step away, step out from the tree, thanking the tree, noticing your feet, coming back through that mist and back to the place where you started the journey. And now coming back to full body awareness, feeling your feet on the earth, feeling the support of Mother Earth holding you, and connecting with your breath, moving in and moving out. And then slowly getting ready to open your eyes and coming back into full waking consciousness at this space and this time. So we have some time for a few minutes. If anyone has any questions, you can also put them in the chat. And you can also put them on Facebook if you're not ready yet. Sometimes it takes a while for these experiences to integrate through. It's all actually a really good idea to do some journaling after, but I'm aware of our time restriction here, so make some notes perhaps. You don't want to forget anything that happened. But if you do have any questions or anybody wants to share anything, then just give us a heads up here and Catherine can unmute you. And in the meantime, while you're doing that, I'm just going to make a couple of announcements about your deepening practices in your course guide. I hope you're enjoying that course guide and using it to take notes and keep track of what you're noticing that's unfolding. I found in the past that many people, things start to open up. It depends on how much time that you have and that you can give to it. And usually the more time that you can give it and the more space, then the more that will arise. And so I really encourage you to do that so you can get the most out of this course. So your deepening practices are to think about this ancestor and maybe find out some more. If you may have a sense of who this ancestor is, if it's on your mother's line or your father's line or how far back, and So connecting with our ancestors, finding out a little bit about them, sometimes doing a little search or family tree research, but at the very least, to follow up on anything that this ancestor asked or invited you to do to connect with them. And some tried and true ways to do it, some pretty traditional ways, would be to create an altar or a special space for that ancestor, or to make an offering of some kind. But do follow up on what that ancestor had to say. So Catherine, can I ask if there's any questions or comments coming through? Anybody with their hands
Yes,
up?
Kathy had something, so I can unmute her or ask her to unmute if you'd like to take her question or share.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead, Kathy.
Wow. A couple of days ago, I had the intuitiveness that a family member was passing, making their transition. And so for this journey, she's been with me for like 3 days now. And so it's not exactly an ancestor, but we're still family. And so it was more, I guess my question is there a difference in attitude towards the word ritual and the word ceremony?
Mm.
Or are they the same?
Well, that's a good question. It depends on who you ask that. Some of the African elders that I've learned from are very clear that ceremony and ritual are different. They see ceremony as something that is more rigid and a certain way you do things, like, for example, a marriage or a graduation or a baptism, they might see as a ceremony. And that actually ritual to them is something that you create, that is, as I was describing it, the more indigenous way of simply being present to what is needed to be done, and a community act of creation that the community would gather. So, and again, that's not something that translates into our modern minds, right? So different cultures will, and different indigenous traditions around and the use of those words. Yeah, again, it's words, and words can be very limiting and restrictive. When we're talking about something that's a dance, right? That is a dance. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So that's
a good question. Thank you for asking that. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So any other comments or questions or shares in the group?
I don't see anybody raising their hand, but we have lots of thank yous and gratitude. Beautiful journey. Diana says, first there came a remembrance, second was the power to heal and reset, now a purpose has been given.
Beautiful. Our ancestors are very close now at this time. I mean, it is this, dark time when the veils are thin. And also, we are on the verge and on the edge. We've actually made the leap, a quantum leap, into a whole new timeline for humanity, a whole new age. And the ancestors, are celebrating with us, and we wouldn't be here without them. And so this is for all of us and for those who will come after us. A very important time. So a really beautiful time to be connecting with your ancestors. So A couple of announcements then. The exciting news is that the Intro to Shamanism course that I'll be telling you more about next week is now live. So you can, Catherine, if you put the link in, I'm going to give you a sneak preview. You can't register yet. So you have to wait till next week because we haven't got the link yet. The special link that will give you a pretty big bonus, like a $200 discount if this is something that you're called to do, to jump into that introduction, that 9-week course with me, which I'll have more details on. But you can go in and have a sneak peek. Just don't register because you won't get your big discount yet. That link won't go in until next week. But do go have a look. So it's Intro to Shamanism online, and Catherine is putting the link there in the chat if you just want to click on that and go have a quick look. So I'm really excited about that coming up in January. And also on next Monday night is full moon, and we'll have a circle again. So you're most welcome. Love for you to join. I know some of you are. I've been seeing you in the circle, and it's beautiful. The invitation will be on my Facebook, on the private Facebook page for this class, and also you'll receive it in your email, in your mailbox. Hopefully tomorrow, the invitation to that. So, love to see you in the circle, so you can come and have, if ceremony and ritual appeals to you and feeds your spirit, then most welcome. Love to have you join. So thank you, everyone. Beautiful night again. Energy feels so sweet here tonight. And I don't know if anybody else is feeling this really sweet, positive energy. But I'm feeling it, and I hope you're feeling it too. And there's some exciting times ahead, some challenging times, but we've made that, we've been birthed. We have birthed ourselves into a new positive timeline. For this planet. And so, it's going to take a while for the dust to settle, but we've done it. The energetic birth has happened, and we are on the other side. So welcome to the new earth, and you have a wonderful Christmas. Wishing all of you, peace, happiness, pure joy, presence, and to be with those who you most love, however you can connect, remembering, the power of connection, right? We don't have to be together in physical, though that's very sweet if it can happen. And we will be appreciating, because that will change. This is not going to last that much longer, I predict. So we just have to sit tight and just nurture those connections with the people and with the places that we love and that nurture and love and sustain us. So blessings, everyone, and see you next Tuesday night for our last class. And I look forward to seeing you. Good night. Good night, everyone.